good evening. Welcome to Prime Business with me, Pius Kojo Baka. To our very first story, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center has attributed the surge in investor interest in the economy to the country securing a program with the International Monetary Fund. The economy came under pressure in 2021, forcing some investors to sell off their Ghana bonds, while some donor partners suspended funding to the country. But Chief Executive of the center, Yofi Grant, says the fund program has given some optimism to investors about the outlook for the economy.
The country in itself is endowed with significant resources that are quite important for many other countries. We are resource rich, very much like the continent. The fact that we have gold, diamonds, bauxite, iron ore, manganese, salt, oil and gas, and more recently lithium, makes us particularly interesting in resetting the global economy, especially in these times of climate change, where these minerals, most of them called transition minerals, are in Ghana. And they are required for Industry 4.0 going into now Industry 5.0, the digital age. And so they are very important. But beyond that, Ghana also is very well imbued with significant agro resources. About 60% of our land mass is a possible agricultural land. It's estimated that we have some 13 million acres of very fertile land which can be used for agriculture. So in terms of the resources, we are very well positioned. In terms of the policy orientation too, we seem to have demonstrated very clearly that we want to establish an economy of transformation. First, by ensuring that we educate our kids to be able to take over an economy of a value-added economy by providing them free education at the senior high school level. And I keep saying that in the medium term, the minimum education of the average Ghanaian will be high school education. That is very significant for transforming an economy into a highly complex and sophisticated one, against what we've known from long, where we just dig up our resources and export them in their raw form. But beyond that too, we have clearly set ourselves on the path of transformation with value addition. And the President's view that we should stop exporting our raw materials and resources and add value to them before exporting is very instructive, not only for Ghana, but the African continent. Because the bane of African economics is the fact that we just export all our raw materials and import finished goods from those very same raw materials, which hasn't done well, doesn't augur well for transforming wealth on the continent. And for us, where there's a huge youth bracket, there is a need to create a new narrative for the African continent.
Data, they say, is the new gold, hence the importance of a data system in the dissemination of information. This is why the Ghana Statistical Service, in collaboration with Statistics Denmark, made available StatsBank, which is an online database containing disaggregated data from the 2021 Population and Housing Census, as well as other national surveys. Government statistician Professor Samuel Kobnenim, in his opening remarks, noted the importance of data systems in decision-making, emphasizing the importance of the hackathon and its contribution to policymaking.
We have realized as a country, a global community, that Ghana's development is characterized by cyclical fluctuations. And we are clear in our minds as a service that the only way we can end these fluctuations in our cyclical development is what we are trying to do today, which is the Statistics Bank. You did indicate that it is a repository of data, and I'm happy to respond to one of the questions from Raymond, why we are calling it a bank. Chair and colleagues, it is clear out there that every investment, a $1 investment in a data system, please, I didn't say data production, a data system, has a returns of $32 at the minimum. And for developing countries like ours, the returns can go as high as $73. Hence the name a Statistics Bank. So the output is that it is a repository of data set, but we are associating it with a bank because that is what is going to unleash the potential, the transformation that we seek to get as a country.
African leaders are being urged to empower their local manufacturers with the needed investments and infrastructure to transform and industrialize the continent. According to Executive Director of the African Center for Energy Policy, Ben Boache, most African leaders have failed to create the congenial environment for their indigenous businesses, hence are unable to compete favorably under the African Continental Free Trade Area. Speaking to Joy Business at Day 2 of the Future Energy Conference, Mr. Boachi called for a concerted effort to change the narrative.
What happened even with the panel, where we're struggling to appreciate how we lack that boldness, the leadership, to detail out some of the specifics that links us into the manufacturing and industrialization. You know, in some countries you hear the leaders claiming that we are industrializing, but the data actually shows that we are deindustrializing. We are not in a state where you can even compare to the areas of increments of our world, where we now even have a more diverse industries, but the boldness and output actually shows that we are deindustrializing. So we need leaders to come to that realization and begin to empower our people and provide the needed infrastructure and backbone for such industrialization to actually happen. And unfortunately, that is a key ingredient that is missing, the leadership to actually appreciate what we need to do and build a consistent roadmap that helps all of us to actually develop and advance our economies.
A recent study by the United Nations Institute for Natural Resources in Africa has uncovered heavy reliance on pollutant fuels, especially charcoal and firewood. Aside increasing their carbon footprints, the heavy reliance on these sources of fuel is exposing small-scale businesses in Ghana to energy shortages and adversely affecting their outcome. However, the Institute is confident the innovative for clean agricultural technologies will help to promote access to financing and capacity building to boost efficiency while promoting inclusion. Here's more.
Charcoal and firewood have been identified as leading carbon pollutants fueling small and medium-scale enterprises in the food processing sector in Ghana. The heavy reliance on these polluting fuels is increasing the carbon footprint of these small businesses, exposing them to energy shortages and negatively affecting productivity. At a stakeholder meeting in Accra, experts suggest that the Innovate for Clean Agricultural Technologies initiative will be a feasible solution to the challenges confronting SMEs.
Again, the informal sector in the food processing mostly use traditional energy sources. These are charcoal, firewood, and crop residues. Even where modern sources are available, cases where business needed to switch from traditional to cleaner fuels, the transition often involved the continued use of other polluting fuels. These SMEs are also exposed to energy shortages and price fluctuations that negatively affect their productivity, shifting demand towards even more polluting energy sources, even coal, which leads to increasing their carbon footprint. Based on the findings of this research, UNU-INRA highlights the need to promote the adoption of clean energy. Furthering its work in this subject area, UNU-INRA has been mandated by IDRC to implement a 30-month project themed Innovate for Clean Agricultural Technologies in Ghana, Cote d'Ivoire, and Senegal. The rationale of our project is built on the premise that transitioning to sustainable energy and food systems is crucial for achieving equitable and sustainable development.
Ghana's Ministry for Food and Agriculture says it views this new initiative as a major boost for Phase 2 of the Planting for Food and Jobs policy.
The Ministry of Food and Agriculture is delighted to be part of this program, and as we move on with the Planting for Food and Job Phase 2, we cannot succeed if we do not have affordable and clean energy to unleash all the dreams we have locked up in that program. As we move to cleaner and cheaper energy, I would want to also emphasize that we would have to gradually move from the traditional systems to what we have ahead. But what we ask for is the innovations from research to be widely shared, for us to also learn lessons and tag along the positives.
Innovate for Clean Agricultural Technologies InfoCat initiative aims at increasing economic empowerment of women and youth in rural areas of selected West African communities in Senegal, Ghana, and Côte d'Ivoire.
InfoCat is very important because it's looking at machinery that will ease the women from drudgery.
Few machinery that we are having, we will relook into getting more efficient and less cost machinery for the women to use in their agricultural activities.
In more business news, corporate institutions have been entreated to have clearer policies to build resilience during crisis, according to the board chair of UBA Ghana, Kweku Awotwe. This is key to ensuring sustainability and growth of businesses. He was speaking at the University of Professional Studies Faculty of Management Studies public lecture.
How people report took us over a year to do it. So here you are, you have a crisis, you lose 2 of your men. They may not have been senior men, but you lost them anyway. And the company, to its credit, realized that, wow, now that we understand what happened, we cannot let this happen again. Again, what was required? Very extensive analysis. We did a root cause analysis report, if you understand that. But we engaged, talked to each other, and now analyzed and came up with solutions. So that was something, again, I was there. And I saw how we then made the changes that changed the culture of WAPCO. So the WAPCO today is a very different company from the WAPCO of 12 years ago.
Fintech company AfCFTA has stressed that payment systems across the African continent can be enhanced through collaboration and partnerships. According to the company, which operates payment systems in over 115 countries in the world, Africa can be the biggest beneficiary if payment platforms are harmonized. Here is more.
Payment systems across the African continent is sometimes fraught with high cost transfers and security issues. Some analysts have argued that it will be prudent to promote reliable payment systems across Africa to enable countries benefit from the continental free trade area. Speaking to Joy Business after a network event with companies and business owners, Country Director for Ghana and West Africa at AfCFTA, Nanaya Owusu-Banahene, said the company will continue to expand its work on the continent to provide good services to exporters and importers.
I think our uniqueness is that we have the infrastructure already. Over the 10 years we've existed in the continent, we've learned a lot of operational challenges and how to resolve it. And also we have deep liquidity in terms of local currencies in different markets. So I think we are best placed to work with banks and fintechs to be able to overcome this challenge. Information security is very key to us. We are PCI DSS certified, and then we are the only company in Africa that was recently certified with ISO 2701 2022 certification. So I think security is core to our mandate and what we do. People should expect that we are collaborating keenly with banks and fintech across the markets in Africa and work with different regulatory bodies to bring the dream of cross-border payment, seamless cross-border payment to life.
On her part, the head of sales for AfCFTA in the UK, EU and US, Suki Srivatsan, said transferring money on the continent through third-party currencies like the US dollar goes to increase cost for businesses on the continent.
We don't use the US dollar for those inter-Africa transactions, right? So if you want to, as a business, pay somebody in Nigeria, the Ghanaian cedi and Nigerian naira are the only 2 currencies involved. We're not going to pass it through the USD, then SWIFT, and that's going to just increase the cost and increase the time. So we've built technology and built the product around direct inter-Africa flows, and I think that's what we really want to focus on.
Musician and the Executive Director of Carbon AV and EMY Africa, Kojo Sobo, is advocating for a fundamental shift in the corporate world. He underscores the critical need for companies to employ marketing managers who possesses high level of exposure and openness to recognize and endorse groundbreaking ideas and proposals put forward by creatives. Speaking in a new episode of Celeb Bees hosted by Amelie Josu, Kojo Sobo explained that this lack of recognition on the part of marketers acts as an obstacle that impedes the seamless integration of these ideas into business strategies and, most importantly, hinders creatives from accessing the necessary financial support for their initiatives.
A lot of people too are not exposed, they are used to the normal things, and it runs across our corporate. Even some of the marketing managers, when you go to them to let them, do your proposal, do your presentation, some of the things you say is over their head. They don't get it.
They can't believe it can be done. Yes.
If you mention some figures, that's when the conversation ends in their mind. Like with the then it just ends there. Why is the person asking for this money? How can we leverage if we're able to give him this money? Yeah. How can we as a brand leverage to be able to make the most out of this investment? People don't think. We think of doing the market activations, putting a billboard in the corner, but those are 1960 way of doing things.
Yeah.
People have become more disruptive. You go to Nigeria, they are doing more disruptive activations. They are doing more disruptive, partnerships that brings your brand closer to your desired customers. So yeah, it cuts across, and it's very, very frustrating, and it's one of the reasons why I'm doing all these activations outside Ghana, because I believe that most people outside Ghana will get me.
Yeah,
will
the
get
picture
me.
you're trying to paint.
Will get me, because here it's hard. It's hard. People would have to come up to par. It's just hard.
Getting sponsorship from corporate brands has been an issue in this country for the longest time.
It's terrible.
And this is the case, you're trying to say, oh, you've crossed your T's and dotted your I's, but from that angle, they're also not seeing your vision.
Yeah.
What do you think can be done to make sure everyone is at par?
I think that the corporate institutions to really, especially for marketing, you need to get people who are very well exposed, people who are open-minded for those positions. That, unfortunately, that's the only thing that can help, because they can defend, they can, let the brands understand that this is the direction that we need to go. As far as we can only do our best, do our projects. And for me, nothing discourages me. If you're a corporate brand, you're coming along, fine. If you won't come along, I'll still do my events and do it to the best of my ability. Elsewhere, some of these corporate institutions will rather come and pitch to you that we see your brand, we see where you're going, we see that it's good, we want to partner. They will pitch. Like, you have about 4 or 5 companies pitching to want to be part of it. Fine. Fortunately, I have a few who do that here in Ghana.
Well, Celebiz is a show that seeks to explore the entrepreneurial ventures of celebrities in Ghana and beyond. You can watch the full episode of Celebiz this Saturday at 5 p.m. on Joy Prime and on Sunday at 9 p.m. here on the Joy News channel. And that's it for the bulletin. I am Pius Kojo Baka.